Oh, yeah. We're not done. We're not done. Shalom, shalom, peace. Welcome to another MOTC Library Chronicles. This is your brother A.K.A. I acquire first name. IQ is all the same. Not done chopping down this devil. Not done putting out this truth in regards to the hypnotized, zombified, cloaked eyes of our people in the Christian church and the Catholic cathedrals scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, still bowing down, still tattooing, still creating idolatrous images of this man named Cesare Borgia. Some call him Caesar Borgia. The man who's been depicted as the savior of the blacks, Native Americans, and Hispanics, otherwise known as the Israelites. I did a lesson already regarding this, and much of that lesson was surrounded around a book called Cesare Borgia, His Life and Times by Sarah Bradford. Now, for you brothers out there in particular who are teachers, leaders and guides of flocks, leaders and guides of camps, leaders and guides of your households, a leader within yourself, it's imperative that you continue to collect information, knowledge to help your standpoint in regards to why it's important to understand and know that Christ was not a white man and to identify who this character is that has millions of our people duped. You need more history regarding that, you go back and go watch the lesson that I did regarding Caesar Borgia or Cesare, right? This is just another video, man, to add some more fuel to the flames, some more clips in the gun spiritually to help you continually substantiate the fact that the image, the statues, so forth and so on throughout these religious institutions are false. Many of y'all know this already. The point of what I'm doing and trying to help brothers and sisters out there is to arm yourselves with proof. Many a times in the Israelite community, we parrot information. You see a meme, you're quick to share it. You watch a video, you run out and you just repeat what you heard. You haven't studied to show yourself approved as the scriptures demand that we do. And I'm speaking that from experience. When I was a young brother in the truth and brothers told me about Cesare Borgia, this, that, and the third, I went out and parroted the same information. Yeah, he was a pedophile. Yeah, he had incest with his sister. Hey, he killed his brother Juan. He's a sodomite and this, that, and the third. But if you ask me, hey, do you have any information to prove that? I'd have been jacked up because I didn't have it at the time. And that's when brothers gave references, and that it was on me. I'm not blaming my elders. Brothers gave the book. Cesare Borgia, Life and Times, Sarah Bradford, but not everybody was going out getting them books. I made sure that I went and got mine because I said, man, I can't be out there just parroting information. I got to make sure that I have it on deck. I say that to say I have another book that will help substantiate the point. And the reason why another book or another witness is necessary is because the scriptures call for it. Okay. So let me share my screen and let me substantiate about the scriptures real quick. And we'll get right to it. Now, 2 Corinthians 13:1, and this is from the law as well. Right? I believe it's in Deuteronomy, the 13th chapter, is that you had to have witnesses, two witnesses, right? 2 Corinthians 13 1 says, "This is the third time I'm coming to you. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established." So what I'm establishing is another witness, and there's others, but I'm just giving you 2, right? In order to help establish the point regarding who's who in this place. Okay. Um, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me get into this book, right? Get into another book. Let me shrink it down that way. All right. We're going to look at this book called A Triptych of Poisoners, published in 1958, written by Jean Pallady. A Triptych of Poisoners, written by Jean Pallady, published in 1958. All right. Now, let's look at a little bit into this book. Okay. Starting off right off the top. This is on page, I believe it's page 13. Okay. Now look at this. Cesare Borgia, 15th century Rome. Students of history often disagree about facts, dates, and the spelling of names, and it is impossible to say for sure what was the exact birth date of a person as a notorious, even as Cesare Borgia. He may have been born in the years 1476, 1475, or 1474. I do not think that the date is of any great significance in this case. I agree, right? What's a year off? What's a year earlier? What is important is what? It is not important to state the exact age when Cesare became his sister's lover. Oh, so when you're quoting and saying, hey, Cesare Borgia laid with his sister, they had an ancestral relationship. Here's a book reference that you can link it to, and we'll get to it as we continue on. Became his sister's lover, made the wife of one of his brothers his mistress. Did you hear that? Made the wife of one of his brothers his mistress. That's his younger brother, Joffrey. Yeah, so he committed adultery as well. Continuing on, or murdered another brother. Speaking about who? Juan. It is only relevant to say that he committed these acts, for it was such that made him one of the most cruel, lascivious, and unnatural men who ever lived. And this is who you so-called Negroes is bowing down to at the church. This is who you so-called Hispanics are tattooing on your back and on your chest. These are the ones that you're buying the candles and lighting them up at every memorial and lighting them up in your homes. This is him. Okay? This is the one you Negroes got. Grandmama got it hanging up in the bathroom, in the living room. You understand what I'm saying? You got the auto decal hanging off your rear view mirror. You dig what I'm saying? This is the idolatrous man that you're upholding. Unnatural man who ever lived. Okay? Now, let's get to another page. I'm not gonna be long. We're just gonna read some highlights. All right. Now look at this. I'm gonna start up here. I got the arrow here, but I'm gonna read a little bit down. All right. The Borgias came from Spain, and they were outstanding for their beauty, their virality, their ambition, and their striking mental ability. They claimed descent from the kings of Aragon, and their bearing was royal. Alfonso Borgia first came to Naples in the service of Alfonso of Aragon, and there was created a cardinal. Spain at this time was determined to dominate Europe, and one of its great ambitions was to see a Spanish pope in the Vatican. Alfonso Borgia was elected pope in 1455, and as Calastius III immediately began to look about him to see what plums of office he could place in the hands of his kinsmen, of whom he had many. Family feeling ran high among the Borgias. They admired each other more than they admired any other people in the world. See, that's the pride that they had. Remember, pride is the beginning of sin, according to Sirach 10. Continuing on. This family devotion took a sinister turn In a later generation of Borgias, when fathers, sons, and daughters were so enamored with each other that they were accused of incest, Cesare was suspected of being the father of one of Lucretia's children. And Lucretia was called her father's daughter, wife, and daughter-in-law. Uh-oh. Do you need me to read that again? Huh? This family devotion took a sinister turn in a later generation of Borgias when fathers, sons, and daughters were so enamored with each other that they were accused of incest. Cesare was suspected of being the father of one of Lucretia's children, and Lucretia was called her father's daughter, wife, and daughter-in-law. And you can say, oh, it was suspected. It wasn't true. Believe that if you want to. We're not done. Let's continue. Let's look over here on page 31. Where do I want to start? Let's start here. There was only one way he knew as yet in which to defy these people who would seek to obstruct him in that Shalaki, in what he wished to do. Speaking about Cesare, he made no effort to act like a man of the church. See, this is all about power. This was all about fame. This is all about lascivious nature that these people had. This is all about control. Mind you, yeah, they had kings and rulers at the time, but guess who really ran Spain? Guess who really ran Rome? It was the Vatican. Very similar to what you see right now. You go to Vatican City right now, they got their own banks, own security, they got their own laws, so forth and so on. The Pope rides around in a bulletproof mobile, getting wheeled around in a wheelchair, doing world tours, speaking on world events, speaking on politics, managing governments, providing hideouts and safe houses for pedophiles. They operate on their own accord in their own government. Okay. Now, let's continue. He made no effort to act like a man of the church. And these are the people who are running the church. Yes, you Roman Catholics who love Papa. The foundations of your religion, the foundations, and continuing on, because we see the nature of the pedophile rings that's going on over there, the corruption that goes on, the idolatrous worship that goes on, the false doctrines that come up out of there. They aren't about the Bible. As were some of their leaders and chairs of rulers, i.e., the Borgias, back in the 15th century. They didn't give a damn about the church. He made no effort to act like a man of the church, although popes and cardinals had their mistresses, and swarms of illegitimate children. Even living at the Vatican, they had at least made some effort to hide these facts when necessary to decorum. Oh, they nice little cover-ups, huh? Oh, Bishop Roberts got caught touching on the altar boys. We're going to need to go ahead and make sure that gets hidden. Let's hide these facts, partition them off back to the Vatican, so we can reallocate them over into Poland or wherever. So they were always covering up their dirty deeds. So Cesare showed his defiance by dressing as a layman, by riding through the streets of Rome in the company of his mistresses, multiple, of whom there was one, a red-haired Florentine named Fiammetta, who was an accomplished courtesan. This was scandalous enough, but there was another rumor in the streets of Rome. Cesare was often seen in the company of his sister. He was observed visiting her. They openly behaved like lovers. Oh, so was this just speculatory? No. This was witnessed. They openly behaved like lovers. And there were spies to report that they spent nights together. Hello? It was said that Cesare Borgia was determined that his sister should be his mistress before she was the bride of any other. Let me really read a little bit more. Cesare, without doubt, was the most important person in Lucretia's life at this time, as he probably was until his death. Cesare set the pace, and Lucretia followed. But for all the fear he inspired and for all the rumors, he could not escape from the church, nor could he prevent the marriage of his sister to Giovanni Sforza. Alexander was pope, father, and head of the family, and Alexander had decided that Cesare should walk in his footsteps and that Lucretia should ally the powerful Sforza to the house of Borgia. So they were making political marriages to continue on reigns of power, right? Now, let's get another page. Here we go. Let's look at this. Page 33. Now, this is just a little clip that I wanted to show. That he was obsessed by his hatred of other enemies, Juan and the Farnese family. So he hated his brother Juan, and he had beef with the Farnese family. This is like mafia type stuff, right? They had beef with other families, beef with other political entities who wanted power within the church, right? Let's scroll down some. Look at this. Many secret poisons were known to him, for they had been brought to Spain by the Moors. This is you know what? Let me do some justice, because this is going to show you how much of a murderer he was, and this is the different tactics that he was doing. Not only was he going out sending out hits, but he was learning methods of ways and how to kill off his enemies, and how to kill off his his passions of jealousy with his sister's husbands. He was killing them too. Look at this. There was another method of disposing of his enemies, and this was by poison, i.e., the book title, right? It could be easily administered at his table. He himself could watch it being done. He could lift his goblet, drink with the man, and know that before the night was over, that man would be dead. The sense of power such action brought to him was an intoxication. Many secret poisons were known to him, for they had been brought to Spain by the Moors. These secrets had been preserved for centuries and were known only to his family. Cesare craved power, power over his fellow men and women, power over life and death. Now, had his hatred been directed at any others but his brother, talking about Juan, and the Farnese, Cesare, and this is basic sibling rivalry. Pope Alexander VI, Rodrigo, his favorite was Juan. Cesare was the elder brother, but his father favored Juan over him. That's what caused a lot of jealousy. That's a whole other thing. Continuing on. Okay. Cesare would not have hesitated to use a dagger or poison, but Julia Farnese was still the most important of Alexander's mistresses, and Cesare knew that at present he was in no position to arouse his father's wrath. Juan was his father's beloved son, and Cesare knew that the Pope loved all his children with a deep passion and a desire for their advancement. Yet much he doted on Cesare, Juan remained his favorite. Now look at this. Look what he does to his little brother. Little Joffrey, now about 11, and just look at the moral code that they were living by. Watch this. Little Joffrey, now about 11 years old, was betrothed to Sanchia of Aragon, who was 16 years old. So they were arranging marriages. Joffrey, 11. His proposed fiancée, 5 years older than him, she's 16. But peep how she gets down. Sanchia was the natural daughter of Alfonso, heir to the throne, and the marriage was calculated to strengthen the alliance between the Vatican and Naples. Do you see that? These were political arranged marriages to maintain power. You know, when you watch shows like Game of Thrones and those type of things, like this is where they get these particular concepts from. Let's continue. Page 34. Watch this. The betrothal ceremony took place in the Pope's apartments with the Prince Federico representing Sanchia. This gave rise to much ribaldry, for Federico mimed the part of a reluctant virgin, and the solemn ceremony became as a frivolous mask. This was considered particularly amusing as Sanchia's reputation had traveled before her. Did you hear that? At 16, she had a cold reputation for being a hoe. 16. Look at this. This was considered particularly amusing. See, they're out here creating a mime and a little play, right, as part of their ceremony. And it says that Federico mimed the part of a reluctant virgin. So he's clowning, acting as if Sanchia is this old chaste, shamefaced virgin. And they said that it just became as a frivolous mask, a cover up. It was all vain. Why? It says this was considered particularly amusing as Sanchia's reputation had traveled before her, and it was said that she had already entertained a host of lovers. So the Borgias, they didn't give a damn. Joffrey's 11. They're marrying her to a 16-year-old hoe. You understand what I'm saying? Who had a number, innumerable lovers. But because they wanted to strengthen their ties with Naples, that marriage, because of their ages or the closeness of their ages, so to speak, they were laying it down. Now look at this. The Pope was hilariously gay on this occasion. It seemed to him a great joke that this experienced young woman of 16 should be the bride of his 11-year-old Joffrey, who was enchantingly pretty, but as a girl is pretty. So his 11-year-old son was already effeminate, looking like a little girl, and was pretty, and he's marrying him off to a 16-year-old harlot. Look at this. His children were a great blessing to him, and he was delighted to have Juan home. The sojourn in Spain had improved Juan to his father's eyes. Juan was handsome, the handsomest of his sons, and both of them, Juan and Cesare, were continually bringing charming people whom they had discovered to minister to their father's pleasure. So when Juan and Cesare would visit their father from their exploits out, representing the church and representing the family, they would always bring back some carnal, pleasures to their father. But look at this. Juan and Cesare were continually bringing charming people whom they had discovered to minister to their father's pleasure. They shared these visitors if they were girls. Hello? They shared these visitors if they were girls. So Juan, Cesare, Rodrigo, they're all running trains and laying with the same girls that they were randomly bringing back. But look at this. The Pope, unlike his sons, had never been attracted by beautiful young men. Oh. The Pope, unlike his sons, had never been attracted by beautiful young men. But it was a great pleasure for Alexander to share these experiences, and if he could be sure that Cesare would reconcile himself to his fate, the Pope would feel himself indeed blessed in his family. So it's saying that the Pope was never attracted to beautiful young men. Unlike his sons, oh yeah, they was getting down with whoever. Male, female, they was bi, they was sodomites. That's what you get. This man was a sodomite. You understand? So when they was going out on their exploits, they'll be bringing back some baggage. Saying, oh, Pops is going to like this one. Pops going to like her. Oh, and they got a couple of little sodomites with them too. Your Pops was like, I don't get down like that, man. I never was attracted to the young guys, man. Y'all go ahead and have fun. How about that? Now, let's move on. Now, look at this. Talking about good old Sanchia. She could have been a sister. Look at this. Sanchia was dark haired and dark skinned, but her eyes were startlingly blue, and her lashes and brows were as black as her hair. Now, the fact that she had blue eyes leads me to believe she probably had a little swirl in her. We know that the Moors was around. I can't prove and tell you that she was a sister. We do know that she was dark haired and had dark skin. That much we do know. It says her mouth was full and sensuous, And in contrast with Lucretia's look of girlish innocence, Sanchia had a look of witchery and deep knowledge. This is how cold Sanchia was. This 16-year-old, remember her? 16-year-old engaged to 11-year-old Joffrey Borgia. She was a cold little piece of work. Now, Lucretia's older than her. She still got a little girlish innocence about her. Sanchia was out here looking like a cold witch, putting men under spells. Look at this. Watch. The Pope of Rome watching this 19-year-old girl. By this time, she's 19, so that's 3 years later. The Pope of Rome watching this 19-year-old girl prophesied that she would bring trouble to the Vatican. They were right. Sanchia immediately set about charming these two, whom she sensed to be the most important people in the Vatican, the Pope and Cesare. So she's on a mission now to get at the head honchos. You know, little Joffrey, little pretty boy Joffrey, he can't hang with her. And she's interested in more power, elevating herself up the ladder. She's fixated on Rodrigo and Cesare. Look at this. The Pope was soon under her spell and permitted her to flout Vatican etiquette so persistently that this was soon the cause of scandal among the cardinals. As for Cesare, he immediately began plans for the seduction of his brother's wife. She's 19, right? Joffrey's 14. Cesare is out here knocking down everything that he can. He's intrigued with what he's hearing about Sanchia and her exploits. He wants to match prowess. Oh, I heard she puts it on everybody she gets with. Hey, and I'm no slouch. I need that. I'm trying to get that. But hold on, isn't that your brother's wife? I don't give a damn. I get what I want. That's his mentality. That's who you're bowing down to in these churches, you so-called Negroes and Hispanics. Let's continue. The Pope was soon under her spell and permitted her to flout Vatican etiquette so persistently that this was soon the cause of scandal among the cardinals. As for Cesare, he immediately began the plans for the seduction of his brother's wife. Sanchia had heard of Cesare's reputation and was fascinated by that most dangerous man in Rome. She realized the need to accept him as a lover. For to have repulsed Cesare might have meant to endanger her life. You see that? If you turn him down, he'd probably kill you. So she said, well, my best bet is to play ball. Let's read some more on page 43. So we see he committed adultery. See, he committed incest. See, he committed acts of homosexuality. See, he was a fornicator. You dig what I'm saying? See, he had hatred in his heart for his brother, and as noted, as a killer of his brother. Let's get a little bit more regarding Cesare and Lucretia and Sanchia, you know, this wild triangle. It was said in Rome that Lucretia looked with acute jealousy on her brother's courtship of Sanchia. See that? Lucretia getting jealous of Cesare, not disgusted. You hear what I'm saying? She wasn't disgusted of the fact that he's committing adultery with their younger brother's wife. No, she's jealous because he's courting and getting at Sanchia. It was said in Rome that Lucretia looked with acute jealousy on her brother's courtship of Sanchia and became Sanchia's constant companion, not out of love for her sister-in-law, but because by frequenting Sanchia's apartment, she was likely to meet Cesare there. So she was in there making it her business to be involved. Well, you know, I'm following you around, I'm hanging out. Hey, sis, good to see you, blah, blah, blah. Where you going? I'm coming too. Trying to catch Cesare and spoil any little interactions they was having. Continuing on, when Lucretia left Rome for Pesaro, once more in the company of her husband, there were many to suggest that she went willingly because the perpetual ride of her brother and Sanchia together made her so jealous that she was unable to endure her life. Cesare did not love Sanchia any more than Sanchia loved Cesare. They were two sensual people who recognized in each other an equal sensuality. See, that all they was in, it was just lust. She's a hoe, he's a hoe, man. They was getting at it. Continuing on. Neither had ever curbed his or her desire. Each was full of knowledge in these matters and enjoyed imparting it to the other. It seems that their relationship was one of rivalry rather than one of affection. Cesare felt differently about Lucretia. When Lucretia married, he had been filled with anger to contemplate her with a husband, but he did not care how many lovers Sanchia took. They flaunted their sexual prowess, vying with each other in their excesses. There was no love, not even mild affection. Dropping down here about her brother, about his brother Rome. I mean Rome, Salakia, Juan. Okay. Uh Juan returned to Rome, leaving his life and son in Spain. All Cesare jealousies returned. For no sooner was his favorite installed at the Vatican than Alexander began to consider what new honors he could give to this young man. Cesare, smoldering with jealousy, hating the robes of the church which he was forced to wear, let his rage against his brother grow into a murderous frenzy. This was not alleviated in any way when Juan, who was vicious and promiscuous as Caesar, who was as vicious and promiscuous as Caesar, cast his eyes on Sanchi. Uh-oh, look at that. Now Juan says, ooh, I need some of Sanchia too. You see how they're getting down? This was alleviated not in any way when Juan, who was as vicious and promiscuous as Cesare, cast his eyes on Sanchia. Sanchia getting everybody. Juan was very handsome and Sanchia could never resist any man who attracted her. So it was not long before it was said in Rome that Sanchia of Aragon warmed the beds of the Pope's three sons. Did you hear that? Yeah, Sanchia was out there tearing them down. Remember, there was a mythical prophecy that a woman was going to take down the church. And here she is, 19, starting at 16, already had a plethora of lovers. Knocked down Joffrey, then carried on with Cesare. Juan comes in for sloppy, who knows what number. Wild stuff, y'all. Wild stuff. Here's another picture of Cesare Borgia by Bartolome Veneto. Uh, there were other portraits. We see the more famous ones. But here's another side view of it, right? Okay. Let me read this little part right here. It says, yet now. No, this is Cesare on a murderous rage, jealous rage, going out to kill Lucretia's husband because he's obviously jealous that his incestual relationship was in jeopardy. Look at this. Yet now, Lucretia sought to protect her husband from her brother. The only way of explaining her emotions at this time seems to be that her love for her husband was a purely physical emotion. He was young and handsome. She also was young, but both needed constant physical satisfaction, which the other supplied. It would be a new and satisfying experience to Lucretia when this could be obtained legitimately, and she was eager to keep her young husband alive and with her. But for Cesare, she felt that dark and brooding passion, that bond which held them close together, and which neither of them could, even if they would, sever. See, she's trying to be loyal to her little husband, but there's just that strong incestual relationship and bond between her and Cesare that they could never relinquish. In time, Lucretia would have grown tired of her husband and taken other lovers. Then he would have ceased to be of great importance to her. But no matter what tragedy Cesare brought into her life, as later events prove, she was always ready to be his slave. Huh? And you niggas in Hispanic, you still want to bow down to white Jesus, huh? Okay. Uh That's it on this book. That's it on this one. I'm gonna yeah. I'm gonna close that one. I'm gonna close that one out, right? Um, brothers and sisters, right? I implore you to seek out the book and add it to your collection of readings. You may be able to find a free PDF copy online. It's possible. But if not, you can find it on Amazon. It's going on Amazon for around $26 to $30. Okay. Um, but it is necessary to make sure that you've got, information to back our claims. As Hebrew Israelites, we got to make sure that we're standing on what they call business. You dig what I'm saying? So that's going to conclude this Library Chronicles, Messengers of the Covenant, MOTC. It's your brother Motc, IQAhmath, first name, IQ, it's all the same. A triptych of poisoners. More Cutz of Cesare Borgia. All praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, while Yahweh Shai. Always remember, fear the Most High, keep the commandments, and you know the rest. Shalom.